Picture this. You're standing in a frozen field, 10,000 years ago. No gun in your hand, no knife, just a sharpened stick. And in front of you, a mammoth, 12 feet tall, 8 tons of muscle and tusk. You have no armor, you have no truck, you have no backup plan. You have your legs, you have your spear, and you have the 6 people standing next to you. That's it. That's the whole plan.
And somehow, it worked. You are about to find out how a hairless, clawless, fangless animal brought down the biggest creatures the world has ever known. Not by being stronger, not by being faster, by being smarter, and by never, ever hunting alone.
Let's put this in perspective, because on paper, this shouldn't be possible. A woolly mammoth weighed around 6 times more than a car. A cave bear could stand 12 feet tall on its hind legs. A saber-toothed cat had canine teeth longer than your hand. And you, an early human, you weighed maybe 150 pounds. You had soft skin, blunt nails, and teeth built for chewing plants, not tearing flesh. By every rule of the animal kingdom, you should have been the prey, not the predator. So how did you flip that video? Here's the first thing you need to understand. Your spear wasn't your weapon. Your spear was just a tool. Your real weapon was your patience. Archaeologists have found mammoth kill sites in places like Poland and Ukraine, some over 20,000 years old, with dozens of animal bones stacked and arranged with clear intent. That's not an accident. That's a plan. You didn't run at a mammoth head on. You never did that. That would get you killed in seconds. Instead, you watched it, for days sometimes. You learned where it walked. You learned where it drank. You learned where the ground turned soft or where a ravine dropped off without warning.
And then, when the moment was right, you didn't attack the animal. You attacked its path. You drove it toward a cliff. You drove it into a bog. You drove it into a narrow gorge where it couldn't turn around. You let the land do the killing. You just did the driving.
The group was the weapon. Now, here's the part that really mattered. You never did this alone. A lone human against a mammoth is a dead human. But 6 or 7 humans, moving together, shouting together, throwing together, that's a different animal entirely. You used fire. You used noise. You used numbers. Groups would circle a herd, screaming, waving torches, banging sticks against hide shields, and the animals would panic. Panicked animals don't think. They just run. And if you've already picked the direction they'll run in, you've already...
But let's not undersell the technology, because you were innovating constantly. Around 300,000 years ago, wooden spears were already in use, straight, balanced, and sharpened to a point. Then something changed. You started attaching stone tips to the ends. Suddenly, a spear wasn't just a stick anymore. It was a weapon that could punch through hide and muscle and reach the organs underneath. Then came the atlatl, a simple throwing stick that acted like an extension of your arm. With it, you could launch a spear far harder and far faster than your arm alone could ever manage. Some estimates put atlatl-thrown spears at speeds that could seriously wound an animal from 20 or 30 feet away. Distance mattered. Every extra foot between you and 8 tons of angry muscle was a foot.
But here's where it gets dangerous. Because even with all of this, a hunt could go wrong in an instant. One bad throw, one animal that didn't panic the way you expected, one person too slow to get out of the way. Skeletons from this era tell that story. Broken ribs, fractured skulls, healed wounds that speak of hunts gone badly, and hunters who barely survived them. This wasn't a video game. There was no respawn. If the mammoth turned the wrong way, someone in your group didn't walk home that night. And yet you kept doing it, season after season, generation after generation.
Why it was worth the risk. One mammoth could feed a group of 20 people for weeks. Its hide became shelter, its bones became tools, and sometimes even the frame of your home. Its fat became fuel for fire through a brutal winter. A single successful hunt wasn't just dinner, it was survival insurance for an entire season. That's why you took the risk. That's why you stood in that frozen field with nothing but a sharpened stick and 6 other people who trusted you with their lives. The math was brutal, but it was simple. The risk of the hunt was smaller than the risk of not eating at all.
So when you look back at that field, at that impossible standoff between a soft, slow human and an 8-ton giant, you're not looking at recklessness. You're looking at strategy. You're looking at trust. You're looking at thousands of years of watching, learning, and adapting compressed into one terrifying coordinated moment. You didn't outrun the mammoth. You didn't outmuscle it. You outthought it. Together. And maybe that's the real story here. Every giant we've ever brought down, then and now, wasn't beaten by strength. It was beaten by people who refused to face it alone.